Hey, welcome to the Tim and Gugabe podcast. This is your host, Tim Gugabe. How you doing?
Yeah, ticking along. What's happening, Tim?
I'm really fucking busy with work this week, so that's why we were gonna go yesterday, but I had to push it back. I got so fucking busy; it was ridiculous. So we can. You want to recap you have the pay per view, the Brazil pay per view, and then we can kind of go into the main card of this fight week. And I'm so tired, so if I'm just fucking like out of it, my bad. But Hill and Teixeira, like I did really well on that pay per view. I hit a Hill bet. I hit a parlay that closed out with Stamen, which I kind of got lucky on because that was a really close fight. And then I hit Bonfim versus McKinney. How'd you do overall?
I think I was up like 5 units. I think big one for me was Burns sub against Magny. I was just like, Burns.
I played a little bit of that, just like small,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, it's all those spots where like sometimes subs could be like, plus 200 and like actually be like minus 1,000.
Yeah, for sure. Hill and Teixeira, I played Hill just because the fight kind of went how I thought. And I mean, I wasn't like completely confident it would go that way, but that's like I kind of thought it would go that way. And I kind of just realized when I was like watching them, I was like, Teixeira's out grappling a bunch of guys who just like Anthony Smith and Jan are absolutely awful off their back. You know what I mean? And I feel like, yes, Glover is good with his takedowns in his top time, but I feel like his takedowns were like, I felt like both aspects of his game, although good, were getting a little overrated just because like he was doing it to awful people and it was kind of fresh in their mind. Like I still think he's competent, but I was like, Hill's definitely got better takedown defense than Jan and Smith and better get-ups. And I kind of just, like it was a little leap of faith because like how would Hill respond later in the fight, But he ended up like kind of doing well there. But that was kind of my basis for it. But what'd you think? Like I thought Hill looked pretty good. He kind of fought through fatigue a little bit too.
Yeah, I think Hill looks solid. Again, if we can get Hill as a dog to Jury, I'd be happy to play that.
I think he would smash Yuri. Like I think Yuri's super overrated, personally.
Yeah, same. Jury's just kind of like that. Not like Hill goes leg kicks and Jury does not deal with that.
I mean, yeah, and I just don't think Yuri's any good. I think he's good, but like I don't. There are several light heavyweights I would pick over him. I would pick Ankalaev over him. I would pick Krylov over him. I would pick Hill over him pretty like comfortably.
Yeah, like pretty much. Like, yeah, whole thing Jury is like, he's a fun action fighter, but like I wouldn't even like say he's like massively separated from even Anthony Smith. Like if Anthony Smith versus Jury gets made tomorrow, I'd be happy to take Anthony Smith at like whatever price he'd be.
Well, he's a striker who's super hittable, and he's like been hurt and dropped in like every fight, and it's just like, okay, like
what's the ceiling on this?
like Hill's so much more like methodical on the feet, don't you think? Like he's just so more and if you look at the distance strikes, I think Glover and Yuri were like pretty competitive, and Hill outlanded Glover like 120 to 30 at distance. I think the simple math just will say like, I mean, sure, if Yuri catches him, fine, but Hill also seems like he has a better chin, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, it's both got comparable power and chin. It's not Yuri some like god hitter. Like, he hits hard, but I don't think he's anything ridiculous. And it's just like, like with Yuri, it's like there's like one UFC performance he had which was incredible, which was against Reyes. But like the Ozdemir fight was kind of whatever, and the Glover fight was kind of whatever.
He was getting tagged in the Reyes fight too,
Yeah, but just the sheer pace was insane.
Insane, yeah.
He threw like 200 strikes in 5 minutes, kind of shit. Like, if you can do that, you can win fights.
I would just hope for an even money. Like the thing with Yuri is I would be like hesitant. It's almost like not exactly the same, but I would be hesitant playing him as a favorite, and I would like be more comfortable if he was like playing him as an underdog. If him and Hill were even though, I would back Hill in that for sure. I just would. I think he's clearly the metrics check out, and I just feel like I trust just his overall striking skill more. Like those straight punches and shit. Like I just like meat and potatoes striking like that more than like a bunch of wild shit,
Yeah, I still think the matchup's a bit weird because it's like I had half unit in the Glover, I took sort of early prices, and I sort of talked myself out of it. I was like, fuck, negative CLV, I can't be fucking buying out of this.
Yeah.
Like, because Glover didn't die, it's always going to be hard to price this kind of shit because it's like Dern Moreno or something, like one of those fights.
Yeah.
Because like even in round 5, exhausted Glover's still got out.
Yeah.
Like he fucked up with it, but like again, it's just like it's such a weird thing because like Glover ever like consolidates good top position in that fight. It's just like it could very quickly go badly for Hill.
Yeah, but let's move on. Moreno Figueiredo, I like this is the stupidest. What do you call this? Quadrilogy? What is this?
It's such a weird matchup because again, I think Moreno versus Figueiredo 3 is probably the one I think is the most indicative of how the fight should have played out. Again, I think Moreno minus 200 is about like because like Figueiredo like his cardio and just like the first fight was just fucking Figueiredo just having like that was the best Figueiredo has ever looked by a massive margin.
He looked great in that fight, yeah. And then
round 2, he had cancer.
Fight 3, they kind of just were like.
I think that was about what you expect out of both guys.
Yeah, that was probably like what you would expect after seeing like kind of. Like after seeing the first 3 fights, I expected kind of like maybe a competitive fight where I slightly edged Moreno, and then Moreno just beat the fuck out of him this fight, you know?
Yeah, but it was weird because it felt like Figueiredo lost like 3 steps. Moreno also lost a step because it was like, Moreno's durability and output is always going to mean that he's like minus 200 at least in the matchup just because he just does more. Figueiredo's
really super tough, man. He like his durability is insane.
I had the RTD and like late Moreno stoppages, which felt a bit lucky because like. Without the eye, I just didn't like. Yeah, Moreno was whooping his ass, but wasn't really putting together anything like super dominant.
Yeah.
Because I Figueiredo was like kind of going like GTD mode, and like I don't know. I just felt like Moreno, like it was a good win, but it just felt like. Yeah, again, I bet I had a very weird betting history of this series. Like the first fight, I put a lot of Moreno because I assumed this would essentially be the dynamic.
I picked Moreno to win that fight, and everyone made fun of me. And I thought Davison should have won that version of the fight, you know?
Yeah, first fight, Figueiredo won. Yeah, that was a pretty clear 4-1. Like, Figueiredo did get like robbed in the first fight, but like it's such a weird outlier from everything else Figueiredo has ever done.
Yeah, for sure.
Second fight, which is like, all right, Figueiredo has cancer, but like again, I feel like Figueiredo, you got 20% chance he just rocks up with cancer in any given moment.
Yeah,
just how he is.
Yeah.
He's
the hardest fighter to cap in MMA. Like at least with Moreno through all 4 performances, like you're gonna have some peaks and valleys and ups and downs. Like generally with Moreno, like over his last like 6 fights or something, he's looked somewhat like similar. Like he's had maybe a little bit, but like Davison, like the standard deviation of his performances are fucking insane. Like he looks like a guy who's like contender series level 1 fight, and then he looks like, you know, then he can fuck up Brandon Moreno another, you know?
Yeah, he's just crazy.
He's the stupidest fucking fighter I've ever seen.
It's also just weird because it's just like, really, I consider probably the 2 best entries to fade Figueiredo were like Moreno plus 200 the first time and Perez plus 300. Like, I still think Perez versus Figueiredo is one of the stupidest results ever.
Perez is weird though, because like
I know he does that.
I feel like Figueiredo memeing finishes in that fight would just happen a lot, just because like Perez kind of just gets subbed and finished, you know. But
still, Perez does so much good shit, and like he has good output.
There's like surely versions of the fight where Perez wins like 50-45 too.
Yeah, I think there's a version of that fight where Perez whoops it, where it just looks to Figueiredo, it just looks shit.
Yeah. But moving on, Burns Magny, like I thought the money line was too wide going in, and I figured because like there's versions of that fight where Burns decides to fucking strike, you know, like Burns is very overrated right now, and the thing is like I thought he had a really good chance to beat Chimaev when a lot of people were like, oh, Chimaev's going to destroy him, and like. But now I feel like he was underrated at that point, and now he's a very overrated fighter. He should not be minus 500 versus Jorge Masvidal. Like Magny is not. Masvidal is not Magny. Like Masvidal actually knows how to grapple and is not going to get auto subbed and can defend takedowns a little more. And like I think Masvidal is a live dog in that fight. I'm just being real. But anyway, if Burns followed a game plan, I figured this would happen. So I think we talked about how we like the like plus 280 sub better. Like it was like, why would you play? Like Burns KOing Magny's super unlikely, and a decision means something probably went wrong, you know?
Yeah, well, that's kind of my view of it. I was just like, I played a fair bit of Burns sub ones, like sub 1, and a bunch of like Magny late, Magny decision kind of stuff. Because I was just like, either Burns subs him inside 5 minutes, or Burns has either failed to do his thing, and like Burns is just fragile and gassy. It just is what he is.
It's like if people who think Burns is so good now, it's like, dude, like just like he has elite aspects of his game, but he has really bad parts of his game too. And just like the Konchenko, remember the Konchenko fight?
Yeah.
Like he got the shit kicked out of him in round 3, where it was almost like a 10-8. If that was a 5-rounder, Konchenko probably finishes him.
Yeah, but like Konchenko, if he wasn't retarded, would be like a top 5 welterweight.
He's like probably, like he's a weird guy because he's almost like Ige. He could, I feel like he could have coin flips with like guys on the Contender Series, and then he could have like a coin flip with like Leon Edwards too. You know?
Yeah, I think Konchenko would. But I don't think, like, apart from like say Usman, like I just feel like Konchenko is competitive against pretty much everybody at welterweight. Even Usman, like if he caught the right mood or game plan from Covington or Usman, I think he's perfectly competitive with those guys.
It's so funny when he just decided to be urgent against Burns. He just beat the shit out of him for like go watch that fight. Like he beat the fuck out of Burns in round 3, and Burns is like petrified.
Yeah, Konchenko is an idiot.
He's no like one of the biggest idiots in UFC history.
Yeah, I also think he was perfectly capable of being welterweight champion.
I wouldn't go.
No, I'm not saying like minus 500 to beat Usman,
but he's like capable. He was capable of beating like top 10 guys for sure.
Just looking at welterweight rank, yeah, there's a lot of like mediocre sort of high ranked welterweight still.
What's he doing now? Is he still fighting?
Was he PFL and he got robbed in PFL and he chucked the shit bit? Konchenko gets robbed a lot.
He just goes to split decision. He lost a split decision in PFL. He lost a stop. Yeah, I don't know. He was a complete idiot.
It's just how do you fuck that up? It's just what can you say?
I just like beat the fuck out of Lauren Murphy.
I had legit goes the distance for half unit, so I'm probably biased. But people screaming about Fennec a stoppage here. There was only one spot where the stoppage was warranted, which was the end of round 2, where she got saved by the bell. Like, again, Andrade was owning her the entire time. I'm not denying that.
I think
there wasn't the knockdowns or like singular moments, if you get what I mean.
I think how the UFC fights are stopped, it was like fine that they didn't stop it, but how they should be stopped, it should have been stopped. You know,
I agree, but also it's like Murphy did like land 47 strikes in round 3, and like Murphy never stopped trying.
She never stopped trying, but it was also like she was still taking a lot of like I know it wasn't like she was going unconscious, but she was still taking a shit ton of damage, and there was like a 1% chance she was gonna win. Yeah, like so it's like
but
like
I have lost.
He took concussive. Like luckily, round 3 didn't go as bad as it could have, you know. But like the end of round 2 is really bad. I don't know. Like who cares? Walker and Craig. That was. I mean, something fucking stupid was going to happen in this fight, and that was really dumb.
Yeah, that was annoying. I had a bunch of the overs, and I was like, "Oh, for 2 minutes, nothing's happening." I was like getting cautiously optimistic, and he just dies. I was like, "All right, fair enough."
Yeah. And then I played Bonfim over McKinney. I mean, McKinney can still always kill someone, so I wasn't like going into the fight like this is easy money. But I capped Bonfim around like 70%, and you know I was like giving McKinney like a bit of a window to kill him, and I still think McKinney has killed a lot of like that, like not that good of fighters, you know. So I was kind of. It's just how many. You don't have many guys who just like kill good fighters all the time. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like yeah, he's doing this to like regional competition and low tier UFC guys, but I'm like those finishes are going to go away. And Bonfim actually looked pretty. Like, didn't you think Ismail Bonfim looked pretty good on tape? Like I did.
Yeah, I think Ismail's a better Bonfim. I mean, also Terrence McKinney just didn't kind of pull the trigger this time. Like I had a bit of Bonfim, and it was also like McKinney just seems to have hit the Imadaev kind of spot.
I think he got countered a little bit and kind of got spooked, and he should have just went nuts, but he probably still would have got fucked up, but like at least he should have gone swinging a little more,
Yeah, because he probably gives himself like a 40% chance if he goes ballistic, and if he doesn't go ballistic, he gives himself like a 2% chance. So it's like, yeah, you're gonna get fucked up, but like at least you're giving yourself a shot.
Yeah. Okay, and so let's go to the main event for this card. I thought it was in Korea because there was like 7,000 Korean fighters on the card. I don't know if there's that many, but I just feel like there are, and like people's names are changing too, so like that's freaking me out. But we'll talk about that in the co-main event. But the main event, Lewis Spivak. I think you and I have talked about this fight before.
Yeah, got cancelled. Remember?
What's the line? Like I wouldn't play Spivak at this line. I feel like everyone's on him, and gun to my head, I would probably pick him to win. I think he has more process and whatnot, and I don't always like relying on knockouts. But Lewis generally does well versus guys who, besides Cormier, he generally does well against guys who try to take him down because they like have to close distance. It gives them an opportunity to like land something. Like he struggles more against like distance strikers. You know what I mean? Like, and when guys try to wrestle him, he can explode out and like hurt them. And I just don't. Spivak has been KO1 deaded multiple times, and like I just think I'm not playing the fight. Like I'm just gonna be real. I wouldn't like Spivak should probably be favored, but I just think. Even if Spivak's like warranted, it's just scary with the Lewis KO still always live, And I'm just worried. He did like his durability isn't great, and he has to close the distance. And I don't think Lewis is as easy to grapple as people think. Like he has like explosions that he can get out of situations where then he can just explode into strikes like in transitions. And I could see him catching Spivak, to be honest. I'm still going to go with the more process-ridden fighter, but I wouldn't touch him at this line. What do you think?
Pretty much the same, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I think Spivak does a lot of things well. Again,
I like him. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, the time he spent living in my shed for a couple of months was very good for him. When he beat Taito Iwasa. Still probably one of my favorite bets ever.
Yeah.
Like just A, fuck Taito Iwasa, B, just crazy mispriced.
Yeah.
I think minus 200 is about right. I feel like Derek Lewis, people kind of forget how lucky he gets. Like he wins, but it's like you watch the tape, you're like, did he seriously fucking win this? And it's like kind of an absurd situation where it's like, all right, he wins fights, so we have to respect it, but also do we have to respect it?
He does do a good job though. Like when he knows he's going versus a wrestler, he'll kind of did it versus Blades, and he was getting teed off because Blades is an underrated distance striker, by the way. And
but like
Blades is just kind of fucking him up from the outside, and then when he should have just kept doing that, he probably would have got Lewis out of there. And then when he came in, he got killed, and like Lewis is kind of good at timing you, like when you like come in. And I could just see, like, there's going to be moments of danger for Spivak here. There just are. And I'm just a little worried. And, like, it's not like Lewis gets finished on the ground often. It happened, like, one time versus Cormier. Like, he's not that easy. But Spivak does have a pretty good top game. Like, most likely outcome, Spivak probably finishes him on the mat. But I just have concerns here. I really do.
I mean, the thing of Lewis is not getting finished in the mat is like he gets put in horrific grappling situations like pretty much everybody. Like the amount of times he has survived the sub just by like magic, it's like that does stop working at some point. And also, I feel like people haven't really thrown ground and pound that much at Lewis as well.
But look at Lewis's losses. It's like Pavlovich, Tuivasa, gone. They're all like distance striking or like pocket brawls. Like that's not what Spivak does. Like Spivak has never even dropped anyone in the UFC. And it's like you have all that, and then Cormier's the only one, but Cormier's a way better wrestler than fucking Spivak. He just is. And then like he's beaten Tabora, he's beaten Latifi, he's beaten Olenek.
He didn't beat those fighters for the most part. Like Latifi and Ivanov were both horrific decisions.
Like there's versions of those fights he loses, sure, but he
did
also
lose those
like
fights.
He's fully capable of winning them too, and he's plus 195 here. Like I don't know. I have a bad feeling. I think Lewis is gonna fucking knock him out.
Yeah, it's quite likely. Again, it is Lewis's magical powers, but like he did lose to Latifi and Ivanov fights. Those are horrific decisions.
I know, but like he still wasn't plus 195 in all those. You know, like it just. I don't think.
I mean, he got very good time. It's just like I think that's the issue of Lewis. Just like people forget, like this is inherent.
And Ivanov has like 10x the durability of Spivak. You know.
Sure, that is a fair point.
Yeah.
I'm
just saying. I think Lewis can give himself opportunities to put him away, and that worries me. If you're minus 240, 230.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not rushing to play juice on Spivak, but I just feel like minus 200 is about right.
I would probably put him more like minus 160 or something, but yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. Jung and Clark. I haven't really thought about this fight all that much. Like Jung's probably better at distance. Clark, is a little untrustworthy. Jung has generally defended takedowns pretty well, so I guess like Jung's line is warranted. What do you think here?
Clark just looked cooked last fight. Like again, I've traditionally actually been like one of the few Clark fan, but I think Clark, if he actually put it together somehow, like he got out away from his dad and like slightly improved his mental state, he could actually be like top 10 light heavyweight.
He's just weird though, because like his durability is kind of bad, and he just is kind of a front runner. Like it's like he has to be winning every second of the fight to win. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's had some random comebacks. I think Clark has a lot of good tools. He's like the most less than some of his parts, like light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Like there are top 5 light heavyweights who are worse than Maven than Clark. Like
probably. Yeah.
He doesn't have a huge feel for the game, but like I just feel like Clark, like there is actually a lot of shit in there, which is just good. But the issue is like
he has a couple decent aspects of his game, but he's just kind of like he's untrustworthy.
Light heavyweight. He's a plus athlete. He's not a bad striker. He hits pretty fucking hard. He just doesn't turn into KOs. Like he has this weird inability to turn knockdowns into KOs. He can wrestle.
They also changed Jung's name on like Fight Metric. It's like Da Woon Jung now. Like I don't know what's going on here.
And also like Jung, it's just like, well, his last fight he just got wiped. Like it was like a medium punch from Gugabe. It was like I had the under in that fight pretty big, and I was like, well, how the fuck was that a KO?
Yeah.
I mean, certain part of me makes me I want to hit plus 230 because I feel like Clark does have like significant upside, but he just looks so out of it against Murzakanov.
Yeah. He's also 1-5 as an underdog, so it's like he's not like doing well as an underdog.
Yeah, but like Murzakanov just that fight was just not a good look. So I know possibly live bets, but I don't think Darren Jung is even great. Like I think Clark hits hard enough; he could like fish something up his ass. The wrestling question, Clark has good areas of his game. He just consistently is less than some of his parts.
Yeah. Tabor and Ivanov split decision. I mean, right?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of it. I don't mind Ivanov KO at like plus 600, plus 700. My gut feel, like I took some Ivanov plus like 200-ish because it opened up there, and I was like, that's kind of stupid. But also, I was like, now the more I think about it, I'm looking at like minus 130 Tibura. I'm like, wait, Tibura has most of the like clear round upside here. Like I trust Tibura's output a bit more. Takedown is probably around, or at least I don't think Ivanov's easy to control. But like if there is a round, and like Tibura's more likely to go for takedowns, and if he can get like 30 seconds of control, judging is.
I think I picked Tabor to win like by decision, but I mean I think it's a really close fight. One line I don't think it'll be applicable because I do think this will go to the cards, but the best line on fight is Ivanov scorecards no action at plus 115. Like why?
100%.
That is. I'd much rather have that than his money line at plus 112. It's like Ivanov is maybe the most durable heavyweight like ever. I mean, because it's like he gets beat up in fights too, so it's not like a thing where he just like hasn't been finished because he's always winning, like kind of like an Usman for a long time. It's like Ivanov doesn't get finished because he's literally one of the toughest heavyweights ever.
That JDS fight was ridiculous.
And there was like, and there was a 4-fight streak of Tabora just getting deaded by multiple people. So it's like, and I'm just saying, like, Ivanov has decent takedown defense, so he'll probably strike. Like, Ivanov could definitely finish Tabora. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's way more like, dude, Tabora isn't a finisher,
I mean, my only concern with that is that if a Tibero finish probably comes from some sort of grappling kind of thing.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying if a Tibero finish does happen, it's probably some sort of accumulation-y grappling kind of thing. And those are the spots where I don't like having no scorecards because I feel like cardio finishes are like the one time where you're just like, well, fuck.
Yeah. I mean, even if he finished one time in his career, rear naked choke by Volkov like 8 years ago. And Tabora has legitimately been finished like 6 times in his career. You know, like it just, I don't know. Like you agree, plus 115 scorecards, no action is like if you were to play this fight, that's probably the best line.
That or I'm not KO, like plus 600, 700-ish.
Yeah. And again, this probably won't come into play because I think it's going to go to the cards and be a pretty competitive fight, but it's kind of whatever.
My view is also, like, I think Ivanov, like, family winning the decision will have to at least hurt Tibura. Like, my gut feel is that Tibura has, like, the sort of default, like, his non-sort of, like, Ivanov's upside to win the decision is based on his durability and his relative power. I was like, Tibura is probably going to be a bit more proactive, probably going to be a bit busier, probably going to be a bit cage pushier, probably going to have a bit more chance of ending up on top. Again, I don't think Tibura is going to end up on top of massive stretches.
Yeah.
But, like, if there's a last 30 seconds sort of takedown kind of thing, that could easily be, like, this is going to be an ugly slog. So, like, I have some Ivanov plus 160, plus 170, so I'm probably going to flip that off and turn it into just Ivanov KO and no scorecards. But, like, my history of Ivanov is hilarious. I've, like, lost on every single recent decision. Like, I feel like Ivanov's been bizarre because honestly, I feel like he has lost the decisions he should have won and won all the decisions he should have lost, apart from Tuivasa.
Yeah.
Like, he's got like 4 fights go. Lima, I think Lima won that fight pretty clearly. Pick for the last 30-second takedown. Judges usually reward that. Sakai was stupid. Lewis was ridiculous. Tuivasa was that was a solid decision, and even Rothwell was a robbery. Like, I've had like decision prop, ridiculous odds, heavyweight decision props. I'm the loser of every one of those fights, and I've just been triggered fight after fight.
Yeah,
I think Lima decision was like plus 700 or some shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about this fight. Nelson and Choi. I don't. I played Quarantillo versus Nelson because it's like Nelson generally has to win fights inside the distance, and Quarantillo's durability is stupid. And so that happened. Nelson's not very good, but he can swing. And Choi, like, I don't know. I don't trust him. Like, he hasn't fought for fucking ever. Like, it's been like 3.5 years, and he's gotten like knocked dead multiple times, and he gets hurt all the time because he'll brawl. Like, couldn't you just see Nelson walking out there like an idiot and just knocking him out?
Yeah, that's pretty much my view. Also, Nelson's been taking a bit of action, and I'm just kind of concerned. This isn't sort of fight I want to play moneyline anyway, because like Choi, the layoff's too big. He never owned any defense, and he's fought one time in 6 years, and he's super hittable, and like even his UFC wins are always like first 2 minutes kind of absolute annihilations. So it's like, how much is that really? Like, everybody he beat is
what's
now
Nelson KO one?
Imagine like plus 500-ish, I'd imagine. But even like, I wouldn't want to like. I feel like Choi is the whole like age layoff thing, plus the whole like limited game anyway. I wouldn't want to overly confine my Nelson bet.
He's also an overrated fighter because he just like he had a war with Cub Swanson that he clearly lost, and like people get too much credit for like getting the shit kicked out of him and like going to the decision. You know what I mean? Like, who was that one fucking Korean guy against Peter Yan? It's like he like got the shit kicked out of him, and people are like, he's amazing. You know?
How dare you? What's his name? Son was robbed.
And then he was 200 versus Bautista, and I played Bautista against him because I was like, wait a minute. Like, why do people think he's good from that? But like Swanson kind of beat the shit out of Choi, and Choi just happened to like stumble him early in the fight, and the fight was fun. So people thought he was good, and then he got the shit kicked out of him the next 2 fights, like Stevens and Jourdain. But like he didn't put up good numbers in any of those fights, and like I honestly, if the fight extends, I'd probably pick Choi to win. But like I think they're both just gonna fucking wobble each other, and it's gonna be stupid,
Yeah, pretty much. Like the layoff, picking away Choi's style, he starts fast. Like, how deep has Choi's game even ever actually been?
Yeah, I think
you're being a little unfair. Like Jourdain, he did break both of his hands and his ACL or something in the first round. So like, he got whooped in the second round. But he was beating Jourdain, and like I had Jourdain like plus 500 or some shit against him.
Yeah.
Because like that was when I think Jourdain had come into the UFC, gotten annihilated by Desmond Green up at lightweight, and like I feel like that's just always a market overcorrection thing. Like next week you're gonna have like Gugabe, where it was the same thing, where he went up to lightweight against Jalen Turner, who was a light heavyweight, and market was like, oh, Gugabe sucks. I mean, Joy, I probably wait for a live bet because like Cal Nelson is such a front-loaded fighter anyway. It's just like
Nelson is going to be threatening early.
Yeah, and just gives
Nelson
you
looked a
information.
little gun shy in his last fight though against Herbert. Like he didn't even want to like swing much,
Yeah, true. It does that. Amidaev disease does hit, but is it like officially Amidaev? I feel like Amidaev is like probably the most iconic. Suddenly, like just loses the passion sort of thing. But like,
I mean, he looked good against Max Griffin, and then he just like fucking looked awful in every other fight.
Yeah, he just lost it one day. He just the thing that took him to the UFC was his pathological aggression, and like he got knocked out twice, and he's like, "Oh fuck this."
Yeah. Kinoshita and Fugit. I think I picked Kinoshita for the KO, but I think the line's a little wide. Like he is an unproven fighter. I tend to think his defensive grappling will be good enough to stay on the feet, and then I favor him on the feet, so I picked him to win. But like, he's still pretty untested on the mat, and even like on the feet, he was getting tagged a bit in some fights. Again, I'm going to pick him to win, but he's an unproven fighter, and Fugit is like literally lost to like Michael Morales and like Vanderford. Like he isn't a bad fighter. He's not particularly good at anything, but he's like pretty well rounded, has cardio, and is kind of scrappy. Like he's kind of like a very poor man's like Carlos Condit, where like he, you know what I mean? Like he can kind of like do shit, but he, I don't know. His durability is not great though. Like he'll probably get knocked out, but like I'm not like I could see an upset here, couldn't you? Like I picked Kinoshita, but it's just I don't know. I'm not playing minus 350 here.
Yeah, pretty much. My view is Kinoshita's upside's all pretty tied into his knockout inside the distance.
Yeah.
Like Kinoshita, he doesn't seem like a huge minute winner. Like he's very counter oriented. He's not super busy. He doesn't grapple, so like
he's like an okay striker, pretty much.
Yeah, he's a fine prospect. He's a good athlete. I'm not saying he sucks. Just minus 350 on a fighter who's probably counter KO reliant. When it's just like Fogut's probably going to outwork him.
He could.
And I think Fogut's a lot more reliable to just do shit. Like he's not the best athlete, but at least he can mix the marshals.
He can compete anywhere probably. Like I don't think he'll win on the feet. Like he's more likely to get hurt, but he could like compete minute to minute on the feet at stretches, and like again, he might be able to get takedowns. Like I watched a little bit of Kinoshita, and he got DQ'd on those soccer kicks, which was fucking hilarious. Whenever he was they called the DQ for him grabbing the cage while soccer kicking an unconscious man. And he was like celebrating, and the DQ was the stupidest fucking DQ I've ever seen in my life. But like he can explode out of grappling situations pretty well, and I tend to think that will work here. But I'm not like convinced because I think Fugit or whatever the fuck his name is a little better grappler than these guys he's been going against. So I don't know. Like this main card is a fucking mess, isn't it?
Yeah, but even like pure kickboxing, that's I think Kinoshita covers like minus 300 kind of territory. Like he's fine, but
yeah, he's fine.
I would just like to see him like he doesn't separate that much in volume. He's very sort of counter, sort of finish orientated. So it's like even then, it's just like minus 300 is a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, one fight I want to talk to you about because I think it was like one of the ones I taped and thought was like a lot of fun. And I don't know if you taped. Did you see Zha Yi and Jung Young Lee?
Yeah, I'm some medium on Zha.
I almost picked him to win. I picked Lee to win, but I was kind of like, this is a good fight, isn't it? Like it.
It's honestly quite similar to Kinoshita very good in terms of like dynamic. It's just like Zha Yi. I'm pretty sure Yi will outwork. Like Lee win will probably just be like some insane brutal KO1 kind of thing. I just don't like his game that much.
There's a really good chance it happens. That's why I picked him to win, but the two decisions he's had in his, like, he didn't look great down the stretch. And Zha Yi in his last fight looked, dude, he went for like double-digit takedowns and got taken down 6 times himself and was like never tired. He's kind of scrappy on the feet. Like he's not as good as Lee on the feet early, but he could just like take over later. Like I think it's probably a better live betting spot, honestly, because like I do think Lee might kill him in the first round.
But how does minus 250 get justified by maybe a KO? It's better.
Dude, I totally agree. But I'm saying like I think you could go that approach too. But I'm not saying the pre-fight line's justified. I'm just saying this could maybe be a better way to play it. But it's a fun fight. Like I picked Lee to win, but I was a little like I mean, I just wrote in my write-up I wouldn't fucking touch minus 250. Like no way, because he's still pretty. He's really raw. He's a good prospect though. Like he's got fun parts to his game. He's like physical. He can hit hard, but he's a little defensively void. And he on the feet, I've seen him taken down and kind of look raw. And I've seen him get really tired in a fight before. And like one of the decisions he won, he didn't get as tired. There was no grappling, and like that, it could just get weird. And this guy's like Zai's like not bad,
I think Zayu's fan favorite. The league could definitely knock him out. It's 145, so like as a 145 KO1 really going to be that big a favorite? Like again, I'm not saying it's very possible, but Zai has a pretty big win. I got plus 200 on Zai decision only.
Yeah,
like I think that's absurd. Like if this goes 15 minutes, I think Zai wins at like minus 200 at least.
Yeah,
just because like the output gap is insane. Like, it's very possible Lee just bonks him and that's it. And it's gonna be one of those classic situations where like a Lee win is probably a brutal KO1 and everybody's like, oh, he covered minus 300. Like, no, he didn't.
Yeah, and then he'll be minus 500 in a later fight and get like Russell fucked by someone.
Pretty much. I think I'm not sure Yi can make his shit work against actual UFC competition.
It'll be like even money versus Grant Dawson, and then we'll play Grant.
True. But I mean, making Yi working in the UFC is like quite. I think his wrestling could just not be good enough against like actual like wrestlers, but like just sheer output. It reminds me of who's that other Chinese wrestler? He got the Noida guy who just had the ring against him. The guy Derek Miller took a dive against.
Oh, yeah, I know. I can't say it.
Charlie. I can't pronounce either of those words.
Yeah,
but I think it's like he's kind of that kind of dynamic where it's just like busy Chinese wrestling, and he's probably going to have issues against real wrestlers.
Exactly,
but
for sure.
Against people who are not real wrestlers, like he can just like run over them by just putting up a lot of takedown attempts.
Yeah. No. I think he has a chance for the upset. I almost picked him straight, so it was like it's an interesting fight, and it's kind of it's a good fight. I like it, but.
I just don't like Lee's game that much. Like, he hits hard, but like he's super available to be hit himself. So like even like these sort of striking matches he had in the road,
KO ones too, or like finish ones. He has a few like arm bars and shit too.
And everything else that's extended just ended up being fucking wars. Like like I'm not saying I'm relying on you to knock him out, but like I don't necessarily think Lee even covers like massive juice on the feet. Because he's just,
especially if it gets later on the feet. Like I do think Lee will be at an advantage early for sure.
100%. Like if everybody's getting quick KO1, it's probably going to be Lee. But like I think this extends. It's like unless you put that KO1 at like 50%, I don't see how you can justify minus 250.
Probably the best grappler Lee's gone against too.
Yeah, and like also like his guy, there's not much footage of him on his back, but it's all just him going to guard subs. He doesn't really have a constructive get-up game. I think, like, from memory, some of the
this guy might be a better submission grappler, too. Like...
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Lee is, like, particularly good as a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
Like, from memory, it was just, like, his only get-ups were, like, going for arm bars, and guys were like, oh, I want to get away from there.
Yeah.
And just let him up for no reason.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, that is... I'm so tired, man, so I can't go like any longer, but that's everything we covered. Kind of a shit show of a card. I don't have too much to add here in general, but that's everything, and we will talk the Australia card in Gugabe's home country where he's imprisoned. We'll talk about that next week.
Yep, all good. Nice, Thanks for listening. Catch up.